you're watching Gravitas and I'm Shreya Upadhyay. Let's begin. On the show today, we ask, is West Asia heading towards complete chaos as Donald Trump vows action against Iran? Reports emerging out of Iran reflect multiple casualties amid the ongoing protests. We get you the latest from the tussle that has been going on. We also tell you all about the big statement from American Ambassador Sergio Gore that gave Indian markets optimism on the trade deal as well as the ties between the two countries. And look what Prada has come up with. After Indian Kolhapuris, now the global fashion brand has launched a chai perfume, complete with flavors of cardamom and milk. But not all Indians are happy about it. More on this up ahead. West Asia is standing at the edge of a breaking moment. Black body bags outside a Tehran morgue. Gunfire against unarmed protesters. And from Washington, a warning that could drag an entire region into war. As Iran bleeds on its streets, Donald Trump signals D-Day. Tehran threatens Israel and the region holds its breath as it teeters towards a total war. Donald Trump has issued his sharpest warning yet to Iran, saying that he may be forced to act militarily if Tehran continues its deadly crackdown on the protesters.
There seem to be some people killed that aren't supposed to be killed. These are violent, if you call them leaders, I don't know if they're leaders or just they rule through violence. But we're looking at it very seriously. The military is looking at it. And we're looking at some very strong options. We'll make a determination.
Donald Trump has claimed that Iranian leaders have reached out seeking talks. He said that the leaders of Iran called and a meeting is being set up. But he's also added a grim caveat that the United States may have to act before any talks take place. For nearly 2 weeks now, Iran has been consumed by its most serious uprising in years. What began as protests over soaring prices and economic misery has now evolved into a full-blown challenge to the Islamic Republic itself. The theocratic system is in place since the 1979 revolution. But despite a near total internet shutdown, videos have emerged from Tehran and other cities showing thousands defying security forces, chanting against the regime and calling for systemic change. Now, amid this, pro-government rallies are also rising as authorities seek to show strength against the anti-Khamenei demonstrations. President Masoud Pezeshkian was seen leading one such rally. Pro-government marches, remember, are seen as the government's push to curb the growing dissent. A nationwide pro-government rally was called following a violent crackdown on the protesters on the weekend. The Khamenei regime has accused the United States and Israel of fomenting trouble. Amid this chaos, the figure of Iran's ousted monarchy has re-entered the spotlight. Reza Pahlavi, The US-based son of the last Shah of Iran has publicly offered to return and lead a democratic transition.
Do not abandon the streets. My heart is with you. I know that I will soon be by your side.
In interviews and social media posts, he's called on security forces and state employees to defect, warning them that they face a choice to stand with the people or be complicit in their killing. Tehran is responding with defiance and with threats that risk igniting a regional war. Iran's parliament speaker, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, said that both United States and Israel will be considered targets if Washington launches a military target.
تروریستی از داخل شروع شد و این
Now, adding fuel to fire, Turkey's foreign minister has claimed that Mossad is fanning these protests. Iran says it has arrested Mossad agents. With Israel's rhetoric and Netanyahu's open support for Iranian protesters, the suspicion is higher than ever. So is Prime Minister Netanyahu pushing toward a wider conflict to shore up his own political survival? Well, who knows? But on ground in Iran, the human cost is becoming ever more horrific. Activist groups say that at least 544 people have been killed so far, with fears that the true number may be far higher. As per reports, more than 10,600 people have been detained so far. Iranian news agency Tasnim reports that 114 officials across security agencies have been killed since the protests erupted on the 28th of December last year. This figure is the total death toll from across provinces till Sunday, that is the 11th of January. The official number could be higher. The highest death count is reportedly from Isfahan province, where 30 IRGC officials have been killed in the clashes so far. Authorities say this is the highest number of officials killed in any movement or unrest so far. The US-based Center for Human Rights in Iran and other watchdogs say that hundreds of protesters may have died during the internet blackout alone. It describes the situation as an ongoing massacre. Bodies wrapped in black bags piled outside a morgue were seen in Tehran, with grieving families searching for their dead. The capital city is nearing paralysis. Shops shuttered, prices of meat nearly doubling, and streets falling silent by evening as security forces flood the city. As Iran declares national mourning for the dead security personnel and calls for pro-regime marches, the standoff is hardening. With Trump hinting at a possible D-Day, Iran threatening Israel, and America targets and blood continuing to flow on Iran's streets, West Asia now stands at the brink, with diplomacy, regime change, and an all-out war colliding all at once. US President Donald Trump and his growing willingness to impose American power on the world. After declaring himself the acting president of Venezuela, Donald Trump is now acting like the dictator of Greenland, saying that he will take the Arctic island one way or another. And how does he justify it? Well, speaking with reporters, Trump said, and I quote him, "If we don't take Greenland, Russia or China will, and I'm not letting that happen." This despite the fact that neither Russia nor China has ever laid a formal claim onto Greenland.
Right now, we are going to do something on Greenland, whether they like it or not, because if we don't do it, Russia or China will take over Greenland, and we're not going to have Russia or China as a neighbor. I would like to make a deal, the easy way, but if we don't do it the easy way, we're going to do it the hard way. Because if you take a look outside of Greenland right now, there are Russian destroyers, there are Chinese destroyers and bigger, there are Russian submarines all over the place. We're not going to have Russia or China occupy Greenland, and that's what they're going to do if we don't.
For months now, Trump has argued that controlling the mineral-rich Danish self-governing territory is critical to U.S. national security, citing increased Russian and Chinese military activity in the Arctic. Trump has also said that he would be open to making a deal with Greenland, but that one way or the other, United States will take Greenland. These threats have rattled Denmark and alarmed the European allies. European leaders have voiced shock at the American president's rhetoric over an island that holds strategic importance between North America and the Arctic, and where the United States has maintained a military base since World War II. Just a little background here. Greenland was a Danish colony until 1953. It gained home rule in 1979 and has since debated eventual independence from Denmark. But does that mean they will join the United States? Well, according to latest reports, the vast majority of the population and political parties say that they do not want to be under American control, insisting that Greenlanders alone must decide their future. But this is a position that the US president has continually challenged. He's even mocked Greenland's defenses, saying, and I quote, "You know what their defense is? 2 dog sleds." He's warned that Russia and China, on the other hand, have, quote, "destroyers and submarines all over the place." And just last week, Denmark's Prime Minister, Mette Frederiksen, had issued a stark warning, saying any attempt by the United States of America to take Greenland by force would shatter 80 years of transatlantic security ties. But Trump waved off the warning, saying that if it affects NATO, it affects NATO, and that Greenland needs US much more than we need them. Trump has also claimed that he had saved NATO by pressuring allies to increase defense spending, and said that he was working to end Russia, war in Ukraine. But it's not just Greenland that has been caught in Trump's crosshairs. In just 2025, Donald Trump had reportedly ordered 626 missile strikes worldwide, 71 more than those carried out by his predecessor, Joe Biden, over an entire 4-year term. And these strikes have spanned multiple regions, with targets including Venezuela. Yemen, Syria, Iraq, Somalia, Nigeria, Iran, they've all suffered American missile strikes. The US military has also conducted several operations in the Caribbean waters, off the coasts of Venezuela and Colombia. These strikes aimed at alleged drug trafficking vessels. They're reported to have killed more than 100 people. While Iran remains a key focus of the administration, President Trump has also issued warnings towards Cuba, Colombia, and Mexico. Following the abduction of Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro, he's further threatened additional strikes in Nigeria, saying that they would be aimed at protecting the Christian community from terror groups. Donald Trump has also entered a diplomatic dispute with South Africa, claiming without evidence that a white genocide is taking place there. And then, of course, there is Greenland, an ally. The coming days would prove decisive for Greenland's future. On Wednesday last week, the foreign ministers of Denmark and Greenland, they had met, and in fact, they will meet the US Secretary of State this week, Marco Rubio, in Washington, and a delegation of American senators, including Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski. They're set to visit Copenhagen. Murkowski posted on social media platform X, and I quote, "We have a lot to do in 2026. Taking Greenland shouldn't be on that list," unquote. The question now is, as NATO faces one of its most serious tests from within in decades, what can Europe and the alliance actually do to stop a US president from trying to claim an ally's territory? And while staying with Greenland, Europe is now moving from words to potential military action. As Trump doubles down on claims that America must own Greenland, European allies are discussing a NATO-led show of force in the Arctic, not against Russia or China, but to claim and calm US pressure on a fellow ally. As per reports, Britain and Germany are leading the talks on boosting NATO's military presence in and around Greenland. Germany is reportedly preparing to propose a joint NATO mission, which is focused on Arctic security, to show that Europe is serious about defending the region without violating Greenland's sovereignty. This proposed operation, reportedly dubbed Arctic Sentry, would monitor threats and protect critical infrastructure, modeled on NATO's Baltic Sentry mission, which was launched last year. British troops, warships and aircraft could reportedly form part of this deployment, with discussions still at an early stage. European leaders hope that a visible NATO presence would be enough to dissuade President Donald Trump from pursuing the annexation of the self-governing Danish territory. Germany's Vice-Chancellor, Lars Klingbeil, has also publicly pushed back against Trump's assertions on Greenland. He said, and I quote, "It is solely a matter for Denmark and Greenland to decide their future. Territorial sovereignty and integrity must be respected. These principles apply to everyone, including the United States." Klingbeil is set to travel to Washington this week for a G7 meeting. As the US Secretary of State, Marco Rubio also holds talks with Denmark over Greenland. A Financial Times article says that NATO-aligned diplomats with access to alliance intelligence say that there has been no evidence of Chinese or Russian warships or submarines near Greenland in recent years. The vessel tracking data from Marintraffic and LSEG also shows no such presence. Still, Greenland finds itself caught in the crosshairs of a great power struggle, and Europe is now faced with an extraordinary reality, trying to deter not an adversary, but its most powerful ally. Moving on, as Russia and Ukraine continue to trade fire, Russian forces have unleashed a new weapon. Ukraine's military says the upgraded Shahid drone are now a dual-threat predator stalking both the skies and land. This comes at a time that Kiev fears a new massive assault on Sumy region.
The sky over Ukraine is a kill zone, as Russia unleashes a terrifying new evolution in drone warfare. From the high-altitude hunt to the desperate trenches of Sumy, the firestorm is intensifying at a breathless pace. Explosions rock across Ukraine as a swarm of Russian Shaheds tears through the night. But these aren't the slow drones anymore. Moscow has upgraded them. The new Shahed is a hybrid beast, engineered to strike aerial interceptors and ground targets simultaneously. It's a multi-domain killer, turning the sky into a 360-degree shooting zone. That's not all. There's a new danger for Ukraine. Ukraine's military intelligence warns that the Kremlin is positioning a massive iron fist for a fresh offensive. The target is Sumy. After the brutal fall of Vovchansk, fears are mounting that Sumy could be the next domino to fall. Russian forces are massing to shatter the Ukrainian shield. Moscow claims that Kyiv has suffered a staggering 1,330 casualties in just 24 hours. Zelensky claims that Russian losses on the battlefield in Ukraine are up to at least 1,000 soldiers a day. The actual number of casualties remain hidden in the fog of war. Ukrainians are sheltering in emergency heating tents in Kyiv after Russian strikes damaged critical infrastructure, leaving homes without power, heat and water.
If you count it, we've already had no electricity, heating or water for 42 hours. Nothing at all. We're surviving. You can see how.
The conditions are difficult. Honestly, what saves us is optimism, and my grandmother's scarf that survived the Second World War. You put it on, wrap yourself in it, remember how our people endured, and we will endure too. We have no right to give up.
Artillery duels rage. Drone swarms multiply. The front lines of Ukraine churn with constant violence. Kyiv too is hitting back hard. Ukraine has attacked 3 Russian oil drilling platforms in the Caspian Sea. With peace talks going nowhere, the war is only intensifying as Russia and Ukraine both continue to exchange heavy fire. Bureau Report, WION. The world is one.
Coming up on Gravitas, an elderly couple was digitally duped of 14 crore rupees in New Delhi. We will tell you all about it. We also tell you how Sudan's government has made a comeback after 3 years in Khartoum. Full story coming up. And all about Prada's new perfume, which is inspired from an Indian beverage. More details on Gravitas. Shifting our focus to India now, where security forces detected the movement of suspected drones in several forward areas along the international border and the line of control in Samba, Rajouri and Poonch districts of Jammu and Kashmir on Sunday. According to officials, a few Pakistani drones were sighted along the line of control in the Rajouri sector of Jammu and Kashmir. The Indian Army troops promptly deployed counter-unmanned aerial systems measures, forcing them to return. Indian Army troops guarding the Nowshera sector along the LOC in Rajouri fired from medium and light machine guns on observing drone movement over a village around 6:35 p.m. local time. The security forces later launched a search operation on the ground after noticing the suspected drone activity in the forward areas. As per reports, all flying objects came from the Pakistani side and returned after hovering for a few minutes. Earlier on Friday, Border Security Forces and Jammu and Kashmir Police had launched a joint search operation after a consignment of arms and ammunition was recovered from the border village of Palura in the Samba district. The arms cache included made in China 9mm pistols, 1 magazine and 1 Chinese hand grenade. According to the police, a total of 16 rounds of bullets were also recovered from the packet. A major reset appears to be underway in one of the world's most powerful bilateral relationships. The United States has sent a clear signal to New Delhi. India sits at the center of Washington's global strategy, and fresh momentum is building on trade, technology, and critical supply chains. The new United States ambassador to India, Sergio Gore, formally took charge on Monday and immediately underlined the scale of the relationship, calling the India-US ties as the most consequential global partnership of this century.
All over the world with President Trump, and I can attest that his friendship with Prime Minister Modi is real. The United States and India are bound not just by shared interest, but by a relationship anchored at the highest levels. Real friends can disagree, but always resolve their differences in the end.
Within hours of assuming office, Sergio Gore also confirmed that trade negotiators from both countries will hold talks on Tuesday this week.
Many of you have asked me for an update on the ongoing trade deal negotiations. Both sides continue to actively engage. In fact, the next call on trade will occur tomorrow. Remember, India is the world's largest nation, so it's not an easy task to get this across the finish line, but we are determined to get there.
Gore said trade is a vital pillar of the relationship, even as cooperation deepens in other strategic areas, including security, counterterrorism, energy, technology, education, and health. And in a significant strategic development, the ambassador also announced that India will be invited next month to join Pax Silica as a full member. Pax Silica is a US-led coalition aimed at securing critical minerals and strengthening the global silicon and semiconductor supply chain. This initiative already includes Japan, South Korea, the United Kingdom, and Israel, and spans everything from rare earths and energy inputs to advanced manufacturing, artificial intelligence, and logistics. Sergio described India as an indispensable partner in American foreign policy, stating that no country plays a more essential role in Washington's long-term strategic thinking. His remarks appear to have made an impact on the financial markets here in India, with Indian equities recovering from early losses as the Sensex and Nifty steadied on hopes of renewed engagement. The comments also come days after criticism from the US Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick over alleged delays by India in finalizing a trade deal. Gore reiterated that both countries remain actively engaged in negotiations, guided by what American leaders have described as a renewed push for reciprocity, fairness, and shared security. India and the United States have completed 6 rounds of trade talks and had earlier aimed to conclude an agreement by the fall of 2025. New Delhi has also pledged to narrow the $47 billion goods trade gap by increasing imports of US energy and defense equipment. Now, with the new ambassador in place and dialogue restarting, attention now turns to whether diplomacy can deliver tangible outcomes, reduce trade barriers, and restore momentum to one of the world's most influential partnerships. Business, kite flying, and bonhomie marked German Chancellor Friedrich Merz's first day on his maiden visit to India. Merz kicked off his visit by paying homage to Mahatma Gandhi, India's father of nation, at the Sabarmati Ashram in the Indian state of Gujarat, where he viewed the iconic spinning wheel and signed the guest book. This was followed by Merz and Prime Minister Modi participating in the International Kite Festival of Gujarat, which has drawn 135 international kite flyers from 50 countries besides India. They were enthralled when both leaders traveled in an open jeep, experienced colorful festivities, live symphony music, and flew kites together. And then it was time for business. The two leaders held bilateral talks and addressed the India-Germany CEOs Forum. Both countries signed 19 MOUs and made 8 key announcements. In a crucial move, they signed a declaration of intent to develop a defense industrial cooperation roadmap, which includes continuing cooperation in submarines. Now, this assumes significance amid reports that Germany's ThyssenKrupp is set to partner with India's Mazagon Dock Shipbuilders Limited to build 6 submarines in India in a deal worth $8 billion. The two nations also inked an agreement to further exploration of critical minerals. Germany will extend funding worth $1.46 billion to support projects related to renewable energy, green hydrogen, and climate-resilient urban infrastructure. The two sides also announced that Indian passport holders can now transit through Germany without the requirement of a visa. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Narendra Modi spilled the beans on the future of the India-EU Free Trade Agreement. With the India-EU summit scheduled on the 27th of January this year, he expressed confidence that the deal will be signed soon.
इंडिया-EU फ्री ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट भी जल्द साकार होने जा रहा है। यह हमारे व्यापार, निवेश और साझेदारी के लिए एक नया अध्याय खोलने वाला है। यानी आपके लिए रास्ता क्लियर है। मैं जर्मन प्रिसिशन और इनोवेशन को भारत की स्केल और स्पीड के साथ जुड़ने का आमंत्रण देता हूं।
Meanwhile, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz reciprocated in equal measure. He backed the India-EU free trade agreement as a pillar for stable economic engagement and also showed interest in German businesses investing in India. He will visit Bengaluru tomorrow, where he will visit the Bosch campus and the Center for Nanoscience and Engineering.
Under my government, ladies and gentlemen, Germany is open for business and open for business cooperation. At the same time, we are strongly interested in further opportunities for German business in India. A second key topic is innovation. Germany and India are strong markets. We are innovation-driven economies with complementary strength in research, engineering, manufacturing, and entrepreneurship. There are significant opportunities for cooperation across industries and across technologies. Looking ahead, the full economic potential of our partnership is yet to be exploited.
Germany's focus on bolstering ties with India across the political spectrum came to the fore in December last year, with the leader of opposition Rahul Gandhi visiting the BMW factory and meeting a slew of leaders, including Germany's environment minister. Amid India's bilateral trade with Germany reaching its highest ever level in 2024 at $50 billion, the partnership between the two countries remains crucial in the present geopolitical scenario. Turning our attention now to the African continent, where Sudan's leadership has announced a full return to the capital, Khartoum, marking a major political shift after 3 years of war forced the government to operate from the Red Sea city of Port Sudan. Prime Minister Kamil Idris confirmed that state institutions will soon resume work in the capital, which the government abandoned in 2023 when intense fighting broke out between the Sudanese armed forces and the rapid support forces. As armed clashes spread rapidly across Khartoum, rival forces seized key districts, making governance from the city impossible. Following the army's recapture of Khartoum in March last year, officials began a phased relocation. The Prime Minister now says that the transition has ended, with the government officially reinstated in the capital. Idris described the move as the beginning of a recovery phase. He said authorities would prioritize reopening hospitals, restoring schools, and repairing power grids, water networks, and sanitation systems damaged by prolonged conflict. For nearly 2 years, remember, the greater Khartoum area functioned practically as an active war zone. Heavy shelling, street battles, and sieges shattered residential areas and forced mass displacement. Millions escaped as violence engulfed the city. The United Nations reports that more than 1 million residents returned to Khartoum over recent months. Many encountered a city hollowed out by war, with ruined homes, unreliable services, and neighborhoods where mass burials were reportedly carried out during the fighting. Officials believe the death toll in the capital alone reaches into tens of thousands, though the absence of formal records makes precise figures impossible. The UN estimates that rebuilding Khartoum's essential infrastructure will require at least $350 million. The government has already convened limited cabinet sessions in the capital and begun early reconstruction projects. But despite a reduction in large-scale fighting, insecurity persists, with rapid support forces launching periodic drone attacks, often aimed at critical facilities. The government forces also continue to focus on the vital city of Darfur, currently under the control of the RSF. A joint military operation is currently underway in Darfur, and as per Sudanese army, the RSF forces have already withdrawn from the border areas. The Sudanese Prime Minister, remember, has also declared 2026 a year of peace for Sudan. The conflict, which marked 1,000 days last Friday, has claimed at least 150,000 lives nationwide and displaced nearly 12 million people. The United Nations continues to classify Sudan's crisis as the most severe humanitarian emergency in the world. As per the UN, 50% of Sudan's population is in need of humanitarian assistance, with the country facing acute shortages of food, water, medicine, and fuel. Let's get you an update from Japan now, where the country has launched a deep-sea mining mission as it steps up efforts to reduce dependence on China for rare earth minerals. A government-backed research vessel has departed for Minamitori Island, which is about 1,900 kilometers southeast of Tokyo. This, remember, comes as China's banned certain dual-use exports to Japan's military and is weighing broader rare earth restrictions. The month-long mission will attempt for the first time globally to continuously lift rare earth-rich mud from the seabed at a depth of about 6 kilometers. Japan has invested around 40 billion yen, which is roughly $250 million, in the project since 2018. While estimated reserves and production targets remain undisclosed, the trial marks Japan's first attempt to source rare earths domestically. For heavy rare earths used in electric and hybrid vehicle motors, Japan remains almost entirely dependent on China, making this project strategically significant.
China halted its supply of rare earths during the 2010 Senkaku Islands dispute, and it appears that a similar situation may occur again this time. Therefore, the government is working closely with the United States, Australia, and Europe to diversify procurement sources and to ensure that we do not become overly dependent on any single country.
Now, despite past diversification, China still supplies about 60% of Japan's rare earth needs, which is down from 90% back in 2010, after a previous export halt. The Minamitori project is a long-term play, with a full-scale mining trial planned for 2027 if the current tests succeed. High costs have long made seabed mining uneconomical, but prolonged supply disruptions could change that calculus.
If Japan can actually produce key rare earths, especially heavy rare earths, at Minamitori, it could export them to other countries. That would give Japan a very important strategic position. So this could be both a business opportunity and something that could strengthen Japan's overall bargaining power.
Shifting our focus now to West Bank, where Bedouin families in the occupied West Bank are being forced to leave their homes after continued harassment by Israeli right-wing settlers. In the community of Ras En Al-Oja, near Jericho, families have begun packing up their belongings after what they describe as non-stop pressure and intimidation.
We have lived here since 1991, about 30 years. Due to harassment from settlers, we are now demolishing the sheep pens. We have moved the sheep to Hebron, and we are gathering our belongings to join the sheep in Hebron.
The United Nations says that more than 3,200 Palestinians from dozens of Bedouin and herding communities have been displaced by settler violence, as well as movement restrictions since October 2023.
The settlers completely destroyed the Bedouin way of life, obliterated the culture and identity, and used every method to change the Bedouin way of life in general, with the complete destruction of life.
Now, even though this war in Gaza has ended, violence has surged across the West Bank. Palestinian officials say more than 1,000 Palestinians have been killed in the territory since the war in Gaza, while Israel says 44 Israelis, including soldiers, have died in the Palestinian attacks.
What is happening today is the complete collapse of the community as a result of the settlers' continuous and repeated attacks, day and night, for the past 2 years. You could say that half the community has collapsed. About 50 families have begun dismantling their homes in order to leave. 20 families from the Kaabna clan left on January 8th.
You can't defend yourself because if you do, you become a criminal. If you defend your home, the Israeli police or army will come and arrest you. We can't do anything. You can't even touch a settler. If you do, they'll say you attacked them, and they'll call the police and army, who will handcuff you and take you away. Honestly, life is extremely difficult.
Over 24 families from one of the few remaining Palestinian Bedouin villages in the West Bank's Jordan Valley have packed up and fled their homes in recent days, saying that harassment by Israeli settlers living in unauthorized outposts nearby has grown unbearable. The area is part of Area C, which is 60% of West Bank that has remained under full Israeli control. Under the Oslo Peace Accords signed in the 1990s since the war in Gaza, at least 44 entire communities have reportedly been expelled by settler violence in the West Bank area. The turning point for the village came in December when settlers put up an outpost about 50 meters from Palestinian residences on the northwestern flank of the village. Settlers strolled easily through the village at night. Sheep and laundry went missing, and international activists had to begin escorting children to school just to keep them safe. The residents said that they call the police frequently to ask for help, but it rarely arrives. Remember, settlement expansion has been promoted by successive Israeli governments over nearly 6 decades. But Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's far-right government, which has placed settler leaders in senior positions, has made it a top priority. That has been accompanied by a spike in settler violence, much of it carried out by residents of outposts that are illegal even under Israeli law. As per United Nations, this trend is changing the map of the West Bank, entrenching Israeli presence in the occupied area. Remember, Israel captured the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and the Gaza Strip in the 1967 Six-Day War. Some 500,000 Israelis have settled in the West Bank, and the international community largely considers their presence illegal. The Palestinians seek all 3 areas for a future state. Our next story should set off alarm bells in every Indian household, especially those with elderly parents and relatives. An elderly non-resident Indian couple has allegedly been defrauded of a staggering 14 crore rupees. The police are calling it a case of offline fraud involving so-called digital arrest. According to the Delhi police, the fraud took place over more than 2 weeks and between the 24th of December till the 9th of January. The victims being systematically manipulated, intimidated and coerced through a series of phone calls. The 77-year-old NRI woman received the first call from a person who was impersonating as a TRI official. The caller claimed her mobile number was linked to offensive and abusive calls, which is a tactic designed to create immediate fear and confusion. And what followed was a textbook digital arrest scam. Under the pretext of a verification process, the callers allegedly told the couple that their funds had to be temporarily transferred to accounts provided by the police, after which the money would be sent to the Reserve Bank of India for assessment and clearance. Over multiple calls, the fraudsters shared several bank account details and persuaded this couple to transfer large sums via RTGs. Trusting the authority of the voices on the other end of the line, the couple complied, eventually transferring a total of 14 crore rupees by the 9th of January. This deception did not end here. On the same morning, the callers informed the woman that the so-called verification was complete. They even provided what they claimed was an RBI reference number and asked her to visit the nearest police station to collect the money. It was only then that the couple realized that they had been duped. The woman has since lodged a complaint with the National Cybercrime Helpline at 1930 and has sought time to submit a detailed written complaint in the presence of her lawyer. The Delhi police have confirmed that an FIR has already been registered by the IFSO unit and that the case will be handled by the cybercrime wing for a prompt investigation.
तो मैं उसने बोला मैम आपके साथ फ्रॉड हुआ है, एसएचओ ने मेरे को बोला। तब एक डॉन की हमारे साथ फ्रॉड हुआ है। तो ही मैं कहती हूँ भगवान का शुक्र है कि उन्होंने एटलीस्ट भेजा है पुलिस स्टेशन पे, नहीं तो हम बैठे रहते कि आरबीआई से पैसा आता जाएगा।
But this case is not an isolated incident. Citizens are being targeted in a surge of digital arrest frauds across the country. In March last year, an 86-year-old woman in Mumbai was cheated out of over 20 crore rupees by fraudsters posing as officials. Just a few months later, in July, a woman doctor in Gandhinagar was blackmailed into handing over 19 crore rupees under the threat of fake legal action. In September, a retired banker in Delhi lost 23 crore rupees to highly sophisticated digital fraud. And in November, fraudsters in Mumbai siphoned off 58 crore rupees from a businessman impersonating as CBI and ED officials to pull off the scam. Then in December, a 71-year-old man in Hyderabad was swept up in a digital arrest scam, losing 1.92 crore rupees before cybercrime police were able to arrest the 3 accused. The pattern is now impossible to ignore. Cybercriminals are weaponizing fear, authority and technology, targeting the elderly, isolating them through threats of arrest and bleeding them dry before they can verify a single claim. So tonight on Gravitas, we're leaving you with a few simple rules to stay safe from digital arrest scams. Do not transfer money on unsolicited calls. Verify all callers. Never share OTPs or bank details. And report suspicious calls immediately. Because one phone call, one moment of panic can wipe out a lifetime of your savings. So do stay alert. Moving on. Months after Nepal's youth helped topple a corrupt government, they're now stepping forward once again, this time to serve on the front lines of democracy. In Nepal's capital city of Kathmandu, hundreds of young people queued up to join the temporary police force ahead of March elections. Authorities are recruiting temporary police officers to help maintain security during the voting, the first election since mass protests brought down the previous government. Take a look.
अब काम साम केही पनि छैन अलिअलि भयो नि खर्च होस् निर्वाचन राम्ररी होस् सकेको आफूले पनि हेल्प गर्न सकौं भनेर आफ्नो तर्फबाट पनि केही हेल्प होस्
म आफै बेरोजगारी भएको कारणले गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ अहिले सरकारले चाहिँ यो भ्याकेन्सी एनाउन्समेन्ट गरेको खबर पाएछ अनि त्यही कारणले गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ म देशको लागि केही सेवा गर्छु भन्ने हेतु
The Himalayas usually at this time of the year are draped in white snow. Instead, vast slopes stand bare, brown and brittle. A snow drought is tightening its grip even as northern India shivers under the season's coldest nights. And what's missing in the mountains could decide the fate of millions downstream.
The Himalayas are running out of snow. Where winter should pile layer upon layer of white ice, the mountains are exposing rock, dust and fear. Meteorologists warn that much less snow has fallen across the Himalayas this season, and it is no longer an exception. It is becoming the norm. Research shows that most winters in the past 5 years have recorded snowfall far below the average seen between 1980 and 2020. Snow cover days are shrinking fast. Glaciers are being denied their annual refill. Rivers that depend on slow, steady melt are being pushed towards seasonal shock. The Himalayas feed Asia's great rivers, the Indus, the Ganga, the Brahmaputra. When snow disappears, water security disappears with it. Farmers lose predictability, cities lose buffers, hydropower grids lose stability. Millions face heightened water stress during the summer season. The paradox is stark. Down in the plains, winter has bitten hard. On Monday, Delhi plunged to 3 degrees Celsius, Gurugram colder than Shimla. Minimum temperatures in Gurugram dropped to a bone-chilling 0.6 degrees, the coldest spell of the season. Frost spread across fields. Schools shut. Cold waves tighten their grip across North India. The chill feels brutal, yet it masks a deeper danger. Cold air does not equal healthy snow. Scientists say rising temperatures are altering how winter behaves in the mountains. More precipitation is falling as rain, not snow. Snow that does fall melts earlier, rushing away instead of lingering. The natural water reservoir is breaking down. As the frost blankets the plains and the peaks remain naked, the regional climate is being rewritten in real time. The Himalayas are waiting for a winter that may never return in full. Bureau Report, WION. World is One.
It's said that you can't buy happiness, but you can buy tea. And that's kind of the same thing. Global fashion brand Prada seems to have taken this quite literally, because after the Indian Kolhapuri chappal, now they've come up with a Desi chai fragrance. The Italian luxury house has launched a new unisex perfume called Infusion the Santal Chai, inspired by India's most beloved drink, which is a steaming cup of elaichi or cardamom tea. The scent promises warmth in a bottle, blending cardamom spice, creamy chai, sandalwood and soft musks with a hint of citrus. Even the packaging feels familiar, dressed in earthy browns that mirror the color of freshly brewed tea. This latest Prada chai perfume comes in an engravable bottle, giving it a sophisticated touch. But not everyone is sipping this quietly. Social media is divided. Some are delighted by the idea of smelling like chai, while others are questioning the cultural borrowing, especially when the price for a 100 ml cup of tea comes in at about $190 or about 17,000 rupees in Indian currency. Prada has flirted with what it calls inspiration from India earlier as well, although not without controversy. In 2025, the brand faced backlash for its exorbitantly priced footwear, which resembled India's Kolhapuri chappals, leading to a case being filed against it in the Bombay High Court, alleging cultural appropriation. And following this outrage, a Prada team had visited India to study the craft. And in December last year, the brand signed a memorandum of understanding with Maharashtra's Litcom and Karnataka's Litkar. From chappals to chai, Prada's Indian inspirations are clearly brewing more than just perfume. All right, with that, we're coming to the end of this edition of Gravitas. But before that, let's tell you how in Pakistan's Karachi, 75 Hindu couples from across Pakistan got married in a mass wedding organized by the Pakistan Hindu Council. This event, which is held annually since 2008, supports low-income families by helping with wedding expenses and ensuring the couples can celebrate their big day. Take a look at those visuals. Thank you for joining us tonight. Bye-bye.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
The world's most powerful minds gather. Decisions that shape our future are made. From the Swiss Alps to you. Starting January 19th, WION will deep dive into the significance of what global leaders are deliberating at the World Economic Forum. The coverage will feature key roundtable discussions every day with top analysts at WION's headquarters. Stay tuned as we break down key themes from the Davos Forum to make it simple and engaging for you, only on WION.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RSS centenary year, Kesariya at 100.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
Vielleicht nur als Imposant.
And welcome back. Thanks very much for staying on with us. I'm Molly Gambhir, and we are starting off with a quick look at the top stories making headlines. According to rights group, at least 648 protesters killed in Iran crackdown. This as the pro-government protesters thronged the streets across the country. Iranian president waves at supporters as he joins a pro-government rally in Tehran. Thousands of Iranians fill up a major square in central Tehran to support the Islamic Republic and mourn security forces killed during protests. India and Germany looking to